and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for my Game Week 27 team selection video where we're going to be having a look at my Game Week 26 scores as well as setting ourselves up for Game Week 27. It's going to be a bit of an interesting one. There's still a couple of questions to answer that we're going to go through today, so if you do enjoy this one, please do leave a like. It really helps out the channel, and do subscribe if you're new around here too. But before we go any further, let's have a look and see how we got on in Game Week 26. Alright, no surprises here to see that the wildcard kind of template for Game Week 26 didn't really pay off too well. There was a few blanks in tow, and we really did see the Liverpool players absolutely dominate. So those of you guys who had Liverpool players for Game Week 26 probably found yourself with very, very nice scores. If you don't, then maybe your score wasn't so great, and I'm definitely in that category. So we don't have too many players really hitting their strides. A few surprises, you know, we had the likes of Saka and Martinelli and even Zinchenko straight up blanking against Bournemouth, despite the fact Arsenal scoring 3 goals in that game, which was a bit of a surprise. So disappointment there. Erling Haaland a bit disappointing. Harry Kane a bit disappointed. Everyone was really disappointed. Even Marcus Rashford we thought might do, you know, quite well against Liverpool, matching up against Trent Alexander-Arnold, but Liverpool absolutely battered United in that game. So no joy there for us non-Liverpool owners, I'm afraid. But there you go. This is part of it. Look, we wildcarded in Game Week 26 because we wanted to set ourselves up for the period of Game Week 27 to 29. So Game Week 26, to take an L there is much better than to take an L in the game weeks where you actually have built this squad for, in a way. So yeah, a few little bits of decency though, I suppose. Pinnock getting that goal. We have been looking at some numbers a lot over the last couple of weeks of who the best Brighton defenders to go for were, and Pinnock certainly looked like the player most likely to score a goal. So the fact that we got a bit lucky and got the goal from him is not entirely surprising compared to some of the other Brentford players, but it's still a very nice treat, and it's not something that's going to happen every week. So maybe that saved me just a little bit. Tony as well with a goal there, but that's pretty much it in terms of attacking returns. Kepa kept a clean sheet. I guess that was okay. But one big thing was that I benched McAllister. So McAllister was a player I've been hyping up a lot right now for the double game weeks. However, I did end up benching him for March. As soon as March was declared fit, I did think, okay, March, I think he's got the most chance of scoring in this game, the most chance of getting some attacking returns. And McAllister is very much a player who does depend on penalties, maybe some set pieces to get his attacking returns, and he got his penalty and he scored it. So fantastic. It's good to own this player, and I would much rather have this player and have him on my bench for weeks going forward than to not have him at all, because at least now I don't have to spend a transfer on bringing him in. But still a little bit disappointed in March, considering he played very well in that game and did look like very likely to score. Spent a lot of time in the box, taking a lot of touches in the box, taking those shots on it and stuff like that. So March actually looked very good. So I'm not disappointed that I have March. It's more that I kind of wish that I'd just gone for McAllister and taken a bit more of a risk with that fourth midfield slot, but not something to dwell on really. I don't think it was a bad decision necessarily to play March over McAllister. It's just one of those things in FPL, and something I will say with regards to having those points on your bench, it's a good thing. When we're looking to bench boost in the upcoming weeks, and I am looking to bench boost in Game Week 29, I want to have good players on my bench. I want to have players who have the ability to score FPL points on the bench, which is going to be really important. And one more thing, I guess, in this to the scores from 26, we did have Robert Sánchez not playing at all. So yeah, that's definitely something we want to talk about, but I think we talk about that in the Game Week 27 team selection section of the video. So let's do that. Alright guys, one free transfer, 3.8 million in the bank. So we've got loads of Wonga in the bank. We are cash rich right now, so hopefully we can do something with that money at some point in the near future. One free transfer, but let's just lay out the team and show you what we're working with. So first of all, Robert Sánchez in goal, blanked last game week due to the fact that he has been dropped out of the Brighton team. A real surprise there. Not too many people saw that one coming. Sánchez has not been having an amazing season necessarily, but I don't think he's been bad enough to be suddenly dropped for the backup goalkeeper steal. So a bit of a surprise. I don't think too many people saw that coming, but look, it's just one of those things, and I really do feel like the way you deal with situations like this, and these situations happen all the time in FPL, the way you actually go forward and deal with this situation is kind of what defines you as an FPL manager in many ways. And can you turn this weakness into an advantage for yourself? Can you bounce back effectively? Can you keep a level head and deal with this situation? So yes, Sánchez right now, He is starting for now in my on my pitch, but I think there's something that we have to talk about when it comes to making our transfer this game week, or how we're going to deal with that situation. I think there are a couple of ways that I'd quite like to share with you guys today, so stay tuned for that one. In the meantime, let's move on into defence. We've got Kieran Trippier, so obviously bench last game week where he played Man City, but I'm looking forward to his fixtures from here on. So Wolves at home, one of the best fixtures you can really have as a defender, because Wolves don't really score too many goals, and Newcastle was still a very strong defence in the league. Now they've got a couple of difficult fixtures out the way. I'm hoping they can get back to their clean sheet way. So looking forward to what Trippier can produce. If he even creates a couple of chances, even if he doesn't get an attacking return, we know from history that whenever Trippier keeps a clean sheet, he's often on those bonus points as well, because he's generating bonus points by creating chances for his teammates on those set pieces from open play, playing a little bit more advanced on that right hand side. So attacking returns would be lovely, don't get me wrong, but a clean sheet and some bonus would be absolutely perfect, and I'd be very, very pleased with that. Moving on to Henry. So Rico Henry is for me the Brentford defensive pick to go for right now. I think he's the #1 pick, and I really recommend anyone who's looking at Brentford defenders to go for him, because in these away games he does play as part of a back five. So we're going to see him pushed up the pitch a little bit more advanced, and he has been showing a little bit of creativity recently, which has been really, really impressive. And it's only a matter of time before he does start getting those attacking returns, a little assist here or there, and you know, again, same kind of thing with Trippier. Even if he doesn't necessarily actually get the attacking return, if Brentford are keeping a clean sheet, and they've been doing pretty well defensively away from home, particularly against some of these weaker teams like Everton and Southampton, pretty decent fixtures for Brentford there in the double game week. But yeah, like I say, if he can create a little bit for his teammates, create chances, key passes, crosses, big chances created, he's naturally going to get those bonus points, particularly in low scoring games, which we do often see. Brentford do have these slightly lower scoring games away from home where they're setting up a little bit more defensively. So this confidence in the Brentford defence has led me to the double up, which is why we've also got Ethan Pinnock. So Ethan Pinnock, goal last game week, but please don't expect him to do that every game week. Yes, he is probably the best attacking threat among Brentford defenders in terms of goals, scoring goals, taking shots on, but at the same time, we're going to have to get a little bit lucky if we're going to get another attacking return from Pinnock. And hey, he's got 5 games in the next 3, so you never know, maybe he could show up and get another attacking return. Nice little differential there as well. Cheap price at 4.4 million, so I do think he's definitely value for money over the likes of Ben Mee, for example. So yeah, do still very much like Ethan Pinnock. Hopefully he can, you know, at least get us a clean sheet. I'm not really expecting bonus points unless he does score a goal or something like that, though. So yeah, let's see what happens. I think the double Brentford defence looks very good for this game week. Certainly the way I'll be setting up, you know, if you're looking for that triple up on a Brentford, I would go 2 defensive players, whether that's a defender and a goalkeeper, or 2 defenders, and then obviously 1 attacker. And there's only 1 man who I'm thinking about in attack for Brentford, and we've got him up front. We'll speak about him very shortly. So next up in midfield, we're going to go for Saka right now. Fulham away. Fulham obviously lacking Palhinha still from his suspension. So I do think Arsenal can score some goals in this game, and I think I'm quite looking forward to that. I think Fulham will score against Arsenal, if I'm totally honest, but I also think Arsenal will score against Fulham. It's going to be very difficult to tell which of the Arsenal players is going to score goals, but if you're going to pick anyone out, is it Saka? I suppose you would have to say it is Saka, but we are going to be putting some of our Arsenal players on the bench today, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but again, that's something we will get to eventually in this video. But yeah, for right now, I think if you're going to play anyone against Fulham right now, Saka is probably your best bet, you would say, and hopefully he can get an attacking return, you know, be very creative, maybe get a penalty, you never know. You got to put yourself in the position to be lucky like that, I guess. So let's move on to Rashford, home against Southampton, hoping for a bounce back from Rashford. I think it's very easy for us to say, oh, I'm a bit concerned about Rashford after 1 blank, but if we go back, you know, Rashford is scoring every single game pretty much, getting assists every single game as well. He's been on an absolute madness recently, and I'm really, really trying hard to not knee-jerk this situation and actually say, it's 1 game. It's 1 game. We're probably going to see a bounce back. We're probably going to see a reaction from Manchester United. It's a good fixture against Southampton. It's a home fixture against Southampton. And if it wasn't for that Liverpool result, we would be thinking about captaining Rashford this week, if we're totally honest, wouldn't we? So, yes, maybe captaincy has drifted away from him a little bit, particularly with these double game week players, but still have a decent amount of confidence that Rashford is going to continue his form. So, looking forward to that. Next up, Alexis McAllister. Should have played him last game week. Didn't. confident, but I'm not going to make that mistake in this game, particularly with the double game week. So Leeds and Crystal Palace, two very nice fixtures for the Brighton boys. And McAllister is still a little bit of a differential. If we do manage to get a penalty, it's going to be amazing. But what we like the most about McAllister is that he's playing in an advanced position and taking more shots on than ever before. He's constantly in those dangerous areas, looking really good. And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we like. So from our midfielders, our goal-scoring midfielders are always the players who score the most points. McAllister, since his changed position, he has transitioned into more of a goal-scoring player rather than before, where he was slightly more defensive-minded. So, yeah, more creativity, more shots, which means more goals and more assists. That's exactly what we want from our midfielders. So, yeah, this is going to be hopefully a good one for Alexis McAllister. Bit of a risky one, bit of a punty one, I guess, in many ways, because if you want to get the mega scores from him, you really are probably going to need a penalty, but we have seen it before where Brighton have got a lot of penalties, and McAllister, World Cup winner, you know, you back him to score those situations, don't you? So, yeah, looking good. And then finally, March. Solly March, the disappointment from last game week. But, as I say, he looked so good last game week that I cannot complain at all, really, moving forward. I'm really excited to see what March is going to produce in the upcoming game weeks. And something that is so brilliant, really, is that the teams Leeds and Crystal Palace are both conceding the most chances of any team in the Premier League on that same side that March plays, on March's right side, on their left side, I suppose. March is, you know, perfectly positioned to be creating and shooting from those positions. Now, whether you think that means he's going to be crossing to the other side to Mitoma or McAllister, fair enough, but he's also going to be taking shots from that side as well. And even if he is creating everything for his teammates, he's going to be racking up the assist points quite nicely as well. So definitely March is in a real prime position in a game week that really does suit having him. He's one of the players I'm most confident about in my entire team right now, just because of the perfect matchup there, but as well of the fact that March, his numbers are still better than McAllister's. His numbers are still better than Mitoma's. So therefore, is he going to be the best Brighton midfielder? I personally think that he is going to be. That's not to say the other guys are bad. The other guys are fantastic as well. All three Brighton midfielders are real top players to go for, but I have a good feeling about March this game week. I really do. And I wasn't disappointed in the performance last game week at all. In fact, if anything, it gave me more confidence. Couldn't get the returns, but he got himself in the right positions, and, you know, it looked like he was going to get a return. He looked dangerous in that game. And if a player looks dangerous, that's usually an indication that moving forward, when we're trying to predict future points rather than looking at past points, that he's going to be the guy. So, yeah, loads of shots from March. The most creative player in that Brighton team by a long stretch. I think this is going to be a really interesting game week for him, and I think potential even high risk, high reward captain, but we'll get to that as well. Moving up front, we've got Erling Haaland, possibly his last salute in my team for a couple of game weeks because of that blank and the single game week against Liverpool in the big double game week, which doesn't really favour Haaland very much. But certainly this Crystal Palace game is a good fixture. We saw what he did on the reverse fixture, scoring a hat-trick. So yeah, is he going to do that again? Who knows? It's one of those ones where a lot of people are actually moving away from Erling Haaland at the moment. His ownership is slowly dropping, to be fair, particularly with wildcarders. I think they are going without him, but as someone who still owns Erling Haaland, I'm hoping that maybe he could become a little bit more of a differential. He's never going to be a differential, but he can certainly be a player who can actually help you a little bit more than he's been helping us recently, I suppose. But at the same time, I know for a fact that like so many people are going to own him, so many people are still going to captain him, even in a single game week, that he's probably going to damage you no matter what you do, unless you captain him, because that's just the kind of player he's become in FPL. That real kind of spy in your team, I guess. We've got Harry Kane up next. Nottingham Forest at home. Disappointing kind of run for Spurs recently. Really disappointing. But you still have to back Harry Kane, don't you? Especially in one of those easier fixtures against Nottingham Forest. And the thing is with Spurs is they have all of these bad results, and then they'll suddenly pop up with a really good result, and then you kind of wonder, are Spurs good again? They very rarely are, but, you know, sometimes they go in these little spurts, and you never know when they're going to happen, and suddenly they'll win 4-0 against a team like Nottingham Forest at home, which wouldn't be the most surprising score in the world. But if Harry Kane is scoring a couple of goals in that game, then I'll be very, very pleased indeed. On penalties as well, we've got loads of penalty takers in this team, and there's room for just one more penalty taker, and that is possibly the best penalty taker in the Premier League right now, and that is Ivan Toney on a double game week against Everton and Southampton. He is picking up in terms of favourability. Loads of people are kind of seeing the Toney way now. They want to get in on him for this double game week, the game against Leicester, and then another double game week after that. And yeah, he's looking good at the moment. He's taking those shots on. He is the hub of everything that he does in his team. And what Tony gives you that very few other players do give you is the fact that he is a talisman. He is the talisman in his team. If Brentford are scoring goals, there's like a 50%, or I think it's something like 52% chance that Tony is involved in that goal. Whether he's scoring, whether he's making the assist, for every 2 goals that Brentford score, Tony's going to be involved in one of them. So if you think, you know, for example, Brentford score 4 goals in the double game week, then Tony's going to get 2 goal involvement. So if you put it that way, it looks kind of nice, doesn't it? So definitely a reason why so many people are bringing him in and thinking about captaining him as well, because he is the talisman and very predictable that from his specific team, he is the one who is going to get the returns. Very, very predictable there, which is exactly what we want in FPL. We want that predictability because that's the whole game of FPL really, isn't it? To try and predict what's going to happen next. I'm predicting Tony's going to go off. Onto the bench, guys. We have got Kepa away against Leicester. I do think it's a decent fixture. Would definitely consider playing Kepa in that game, but I'm not worried about, you know, him like playing or not. You know, he's going to be nailed on. He's going to be hopefully getting a clean sheet in there. I think Chelsea are going to be getting back to clean sheets as well, particularly if they stick with this back 5 formation, which really works a lot better for them, I think. We've got Martinelli against Fulham, which is someone who I definitely don't want to bench. But I mean, like, I don't know, guys, what would you do? Like, you're looking at my bench right now, probably thinking you can't bench those players, but who do I play instead of them? Who do I play instead of them? And again, I go back to the point I was making before. I am just going to be forced to have points on my bench, basically, because I'm bench boosting soon. I want to have a strong bench, so therefore you have to expect a strong bench to score points. And if they're not scoring points, that means you're not ready for your bench boost, and I want to be ready for my bench boost. But yeah, Martinelli is someone who I'm really not happy about benching, if I'm totally honest, because with Trossard out, with Nketiah out, we're thinking Martinelli is probably going to play as striker, and we think that Arsenal are going to score a couple of goals against Fulham as well, and you do expect Martinelli to be involved in that one. So in many ways, I wish there was some kind of 12th man chip where I could just stick in Martinelli as well for this game week and see what he can do. But alas, it's not to be. Zinchenko there as well, but like I said, I do expect Fulham to score against Arsenal. Botman against Wolves. Yeah, to be fair, I expect Newcastle to keep a clean sheet against Wolves, but at the same time, I'm not expecting attacking returns from Botman. So therefore, Trippier is good because he's got high potential for those attacking returns and the clean sheet, I suppose. But yeah, in general, looking at this bench, it is a very strong bench. A lot of people will be looking to bench boost this week, and I don't blame them at all. I think it's a good bench boost week. If your bench is set up kind of in a similar way to me, it looks kind of this strong, then it's definitely something that you can consider for this double game week, really. But in general, I feel like these players that are currently on my bench are players who have to stay on my bench. I can't, you know, work out who is likely to outscore anyone on my starting 11. And I'm not going to get everything right. There will be players on my bench who outscore the players on my pitch. You know, that's just the way of the world. You can't predict everything with 100% accuracy. Sometimes freaks happen, as we know more than ever, I guess, recently in FPL. But certainly, these are kind of the players who I think are probably the best bets for benching. So, with that done, guys, we need to talk about Sánchez, because if you look through my team right now, obviously I played the wildcard last week, and I set this team up specifically for the game week 27 to 29 period. So, it basically means that my team is almost perfect, really, for game week 27, or almost exactly how I would want it to be for game week 27. However, because of that one game week early wildcard, I've now gained the new information, and so have many of you guys, that Sánchez is super rotation risk, and it's a situation that we are probably going to have to deal with one way or another at some point or another. Now, let me tell you the 3 options that I have, in my opinion, of dealing with this Sánchez situation, and then I'm going to tell you which one's my favourite. So, first of all, the first option is to do a straight swap from Sánchez to Steele. Now, this is kind of considered good because Steele is a lot cheaper than Sánchez. In fact, Steele could be considered a steal. But yeah, certainly you would think that Steele has slightly better chances of starting games than Sánchez, but does it completely resolve the rotation risk problem? We have Sánchez because we wanted to get double game weeks out of him. We wanted him to play 2 out of 2 in this game week, and we wanted him to play 2 out of 2 games in game week 29. And that's not looking likely to happen. But by making the switch to Steele, I don't think the comments from De Zerbi, the Brighton manager, have been you know, kind of definitive enough to tell us that Sánchez is permanently out of the team. And I would be very surprised if Sánchez was permanently out of the team. I think there will be a bit of rotation here, and I don't think that Steele is going to go ahead and play every single game for the rest of the season. So even if you did make the Sánchez to Steele switch, I don't think you necessarily completely solve your problem. I feel like you could just create another problem, particularly if you're looking to bench boost in Game Week 29, where you're going to need that nailed-on goalkeeper, and particularly if you're looking for a nailed-on goalkeeper for this game week as well. So going Sánchez to Steele, you probably give yourself a better chance. You free up a bit of cash, so there are definitely benefits to doing that, but it costs you a transfer, and I don't think it totally resolves the rotation risk issue, which is the issue we're trying to solve, really. Now, a way of actually fully solving the rotation risk problem here is to do a -4 switch for Sánchez plus probably going to be Ethan Pinnock. So for me, it would probably be Sánchez and Pinnock. For you, it might be Sánchez and Ben Mee, maybe. And swap those two players out and replace them with Raya and probably Pervis Estepinian. So that's also an option, particularly if you're a situation like me where you've already got triple Brentford. You can't just do the simple switch from Sánchez to Raya. If you don't have triple Brentford, then I probably would just make a simple switch from Sánchez to Raya, but that's not my situation. It's not going to be the situation for a lot of you guys as well. So a way of resolving that is to swap a Brighton goalkeeper for a Brentford goalkeeper and a Brentford defender for a Brighton defender. And doing it like that gives you a -4. Now, there is another problem with this one. Not only does it give you a -4 on your record, takes away 4 points, and let's be honest, if we're talking about one defensive player, one cheap defensive player, how many points do you reckon they average per game week? Maybe 4 points anyway per individual game. So yes, you gain a fixture, but you lose 4 points. So in that case, you know, you've got Kepa on your bench or someone like that, maybe. Unless you've got a terrible goalkeeper on your bench, which might be slightly different. But if you've got like a Nick Pope on your bench or something like that, or a Kepa, is it worth just playing them and keeping your 4 points rather than taking the risk and trying to see if you can, you know, get yourself more than 4 points back from that one extra fixture? Because again, these kind of cheap defensive players average about 4 points per fixture anyway. So have you actually really gained anything in the short term? Probably not, but maybe it sorts your situation out in the long term. But one other problem that not enough people are talking about is that if you do make this switch, yes, you will gain an additional fixture for this game week, but you will lose one for the following game week. So the likes of Henry and Pinnock, these Brentford defenders, they have a home game against Leicester in game week 28. Brighton don't. So if you add a Brighton defender to your team, you are losing a fixture for the following game week. You're losing a playing player, which means that you're going to have to take a -4. Are you going to another -4? Are you going to have to play with less men, you know, play with 10 men instead of 11, or play with 9 men instead of 10? And this is going to be where things to start become problematic, because you've taken a -4 1 week for a player who is not necessarily going to make that point score back. Maybe roughly makes that point score back. Looks probably, you know, pretty decent, like pretty average. Fine, you've made it back, maybe. But then the following game week, you actually have 1 less player to play. So you're losing kind of 2 points, even if you're, you know, player blank. So in many ways, the third option is probably the best, and this is the one I'm going to go for, really. This is what I'm going to do personally. So I'm not going to do anything, which is sometimes the best option, particularly in those situations where you really can't decide on something, or you can't make a decision in FPL. Sometimes I feel like the best thing to do is to do nothing, which sounds strange because we think of FPL as a proactive game, but if you are proactively doing nothing, you're doing nothing with a purpose, I don't think it's quite that same situation. So what I'm thinking is, if Sánchez doesn't play in the double game week, fine. You know, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he comes back into favour. You know, he does play. Maybe he doesn't at all, and that's fine. Moving on into future game weeks, maybe he comes back into favour by that point. I'll have a couple of game weeks of information. If I just keep him, I'll have that couple of game weeks of information. If it doesn't work out, I'll play Kepa this week. He'll just come on automatically, sorted. And that will be excellent. Everything will be very good there. I will lose 1 fixture in game week 27. But remember, I will still have 11 men for game week 28 instead of instead of having 10 men for game week 28 after I've made my transfer. I will have 11 men, so I will still have the same amount of fixtures, and that's the way I'm trying to look at it right now. In game week 27 and 28 combined, whether I make this switch or not, taking a -4, even if I take a -4, I'm going to have the same amount of fixtures anyway. So if we're just talking about maximising our doubles, maximising the amount of fixtures that our players play in a period of time, I don't gain anything by switching Sánchez to, you know, someone else. If it means, you know, switching him to Raya and switching a Brentford defender to Purvis Estupiñán. Now, it could work out. Don't get me wrong. That could work out definitely. And I feel like I don't want to write off that as an option, because it definitely is an option to do that -4. But I think it's maybe not worth it, because the one final reason is that by keeping Sánchez for now and maybe thinking about actually transferring him out in game week 29 instead, I will gain a couple of game weeks of information. We'll see a little bit more about what's going on in the world, and we'll be able to potentially go for a different goalkeeper. And there are some goalkeepers that are worth a look that maybe could be even better than Raya in game week 29, and that would be turning a disadvantage now into an advantage in the future. So we'd switch Sánchez out for another goalkeeper who could be De Gea, for example. If Luke Shaw becomes rotation risk, few people are saying that that might happen, then suddenly De Gea is probably going to be the Manchester United defender that you want to go for, right? So I can then switch Sánchez to De Gea and have that Manchester United goalkeeper for game week 29 double and all of the double game weeks in the future that Manchester United are going to get as well. So that will start to look very, very good indeed. And then we kind of have some other goalkeepers like Nick Pope. I can maybe think about trying to get Nick Pope in and going triple Newcastle defence. That could be pretty interesting. Newcastle double in 29 and have another double to come at some point, probably game week 31. They're going to get their next double. So again, we'll be loading up with even more double game week players there, turning that disadvantage into an advantage. And there's maybe some other goalkeepers as well. I mean, I'm kind of half looking at Areola / Fabianski if he's back. West Ham do have a really good pair of fixtures in game week 29. Good chances of clean sheets there. So I am kind of considering that one as well. But the great thing is, I don't have to make that decision right now. Some people might even say, how about just doing Sánchez to De Gea right now? I mean, that's definitely an option. You've got a good chance of a clean sheet against Southampton, and then you'll already have him ready to go for the double game week. That's definitely an option as well. I don't really mind playing Kepa personally, but if you don't have a Kepa as your backup goalkeeper, then maybe swapping Sánchez to De Gea now, again, could actually turn out to be an advantage. You never know. So those are kind of the options. I'm going to go with the wait and see option. If Sánchez doesn't play this game week, no problem. Kepa comes in. I'm happy with that. If we get to game week 29, it doesn't look like Sánchez is the main goalkeeper anymore, and we are more confident about that one, then maybe we can start considering switches again. Could even go for Steele at that point, if you like, or maybe we go for De Gea, or maybe we go for someone else, basically. So that's my plan with Sánchez. You guys have been asking me about this all week, and hopefully that has answered that question. My answer, and I'm sure this is not going to satisfy everyone, but my personal preference is to do nothing, wait and see, and try and turn this disadvantage into an advantage. Hopefully that's going to work out. Let's see, I suppose. Now, final thing is captaincy today. I appreciate we have been going on for quite a long time this video, but look, it's a double game week and there's lots to talk about, right? But yeah, finally on captaincy, Tony is your sensible captain. I've got no doubt about that. If you want to be sensible, you pick Tony as your captain. He is, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say objectively, but, you know, he kind of is the best captain, right? So definitely very keen on captaining him. So we're going to put the captain's armband on him, but I'm going to put the vice captain on Solly March. And I'll tell you now, I am warning you, I may make a rogue final switch to March. I may do it, because I really feel like, although Tony is more reliable than March, March has a higher upside. If March goes off in this game week, then we could be looking at a serious score. And I think if any Brighton player is going to go off, it's going to be March. And it could be anyone, and that's kind of the risk that you take, because with so many great attacking options at Brighton, unlike Brentford, because Brighton have so many different players that can score goals and get assists, you're kind of betting on the fact that it will be one specific player who ends up getting the lion's share of that. Didn't happen last game week for March, but moving forward, is it going to be him next time? Is it going to be his turn to haul in a way? I don't know. But certainly, I really do see the benefits of going for a super differential captain like Solly March, and I'm really, I mean, it's not going to take much to convince me. You know, if I see Tony is like, I don't know, not looking good in training or something like that, or has a minor knock, won't take very much for me to switch straight to March and say, come on, let's go a bit risky, let's go differential. So just wanted to warn you guys on that one. Yes, Tony is your sensible captain, but I think there's something to be said about Solly March this game week as well. That's going to be the end of today's video. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe if you're new around here as well. We're going to do one final video tomorrow where we're going to be talking about all of the Brentford and Brighton players in particular and trying to compare them and work out which ones are the best ones to go for if you haven't made your transfers already, or if you're maybe on a wild card, you're still thinking about it. We'll go through that tomorrow. Plenty of other videos on the channel this week as well, some really helpful ones. So do go check out some other Game Week 27 videos that I've made, still very relevant today as well. So, but aside from that, guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.